those of you who have not met, my name is Preetesh from the Loeries. Doing Zoom webinars again in the crazy world, settings change and sometimes the settings go crazy. So thank you to Jacquie and the team for managing to sort out that technical difficulty. If I can ask Saf, Veli and Jacquie to please switch on your cameras as well. So it'll give us a little test to make sure that everything's working fine throughout the system and we'll be able to chat. So great. So thank you for joining the Loeries Creative Hour. This is our first proper Loeries Creative Hour where we're going to tackle some of the major topics of our industry for this year. For everyone who's been part of this and all of us, here we go. Saf is just managing to sort this out. So I just want to have a look.
Just getting a notification saying that you can't start your video because the host has stopped it.
That is very strange. Saf, I'm going to make you the host. Teams.
No pressure, Saf.
I would try starting it now and then pass the baton on to Jacquie and Veli. And I think that's how we sort out our little challenger. Can you start it now? There we go. Pass the baton on, Saf. Who's next on the list? You've got the power, or you can choose not to.
Maybe it's a good thing they don't see us.
No, Veli. I think everyone wants to see you. Oh man! So as everyone's getting their screens on, let's just chat. So our first proper Loeries Creative Hour. Thank you for bearing with us as we have these technical difficulties and relearning Zoom and Zoom's webinar changes as they continue to innovate and change as well. Saf, who's the host right now?
It should be Jacquie. Yeah.
Jacquie? Oh, we've lost Jacquie.
Drop mic.
The Loeries. Jacquie, if you can make Veli the host, and then Veli should be able to switch on his camera after that. One of the things Loeries has been working quite a bit on is to try and ensure that we can have lots more exciting content, news, and therefore we have these amazing people with us today to be able to share everything that's happening. I think really important that I have to highlight is that entries are now open for Loeries 2021. And what we want to do is that everyone who's fighting this good fight, everyone who's in the trenches right now and creating all this amazing work, would love for all of you to share that work with all of us. So enter the Loeries. If you enter before the 3rd of May, you will be able to enter at 2019 rates. So please don't forget, 3rd of May, that's the cutoff date for your Loeries entry. But today we're here to chat about creative innovation, and we're waiting for Jacquie to hopefully rejoin us. But we have two amazing guests, Veli and Ngubane, who's the founder and chief creative officer at Avatar. We have Safaraaz Sindhi, who's creative director at O&M. And then we have Jacquie Mullany, who's a creative director at Hello FCB, who'll join us in a little bit. Gentlemen, for now, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us for the first Loeries Creative Hour for 2021. Good to have you on board.
Thank you for having us.
Amazing. Maybe jumping straight into it, and maybe Veli, just starting with you. I mean, just tackling this question head on. I've been having a lot of chats with different people who have different opinions in terms of this creative innovation space. Is creative innovation dead?
It's not. I think it changes. So I think the platforms change, but creative innovation, I think, is the basis of societal progress. So whilst the mediums and there's some innovations and tools that might change it in terms of maybe technology influencing it, but I think creative innovation is alive. It's just changed form.
So how then do we then deal with all of these issues where a lot of people are having a look at it and going, hey, Jacquie. Sorry, how's it going?
My computer started because of a problem. So let's talk more about innovation.
Oh yeah, I feel your pain because now Zoom gave us a little problem, and I'm glad that I can actually see everyone instead of us speaking to the blank space. But yeah, we were just chatting about creative innovation, and Veli was just telling us he doesn't believe it's dead. And I was just highlighting that, I've been chatting to a lot of people who go, budgets are being cut, you've got people who are taking 50,000 rands, doing really crappy campaigns that are out there and putting it out there, and the creativity seems to have been squeezed out of everything. So how do we deal with an ecosystem where some people are saying that it's getting tougher and tougher, really, to do the creative work that we want to do, especially in an environment like this where budgets are being cut?
Look, the idea will always, I always don't like linking ideas to a budget. I think it is related, but a good idea is a good idea, all right? Whatever the budget. So you find the opportunities to have the good ideas that are innovative despite the budget. I think it has been affected by a lot of things. I always say, even social media has affected the creative output, the speed of which even client expects us to do the work. But I do believe that in any scenario, you can still find a good innovative idea despite even the budget.
So, Jackie, do you agree with that? I see you've got a point there. Do you agree with that?
No, I absolutely agree with it. But I do think the issue comes in where, and I've just recently seen it from a judging show where they came up with this whole new innovation piece to help kids with cystic fibrosis. And it's like this machine, and it helps clear their chest out with sound and whatever. And we look at that, and we look at that piece of innovation, or I suppose a prototype, and we pin innovation into something that is so damn high, where maybe innovation could be analog. So yeah, I mean, I don't agree with the fact that budgets stop innovation. I do think we kind of stifle ourselves and go, we don't have the budgets, and we're waiting for new technology so that we can push creativity, where it should be the other way around. I mean, creative is the idea, innovation is the implementation of that idea. So, why are we waiting for innovation or big budgets, or, putting our hopes on creating the next, machine that's going to transport our memories from the brain into a new, robot? I think it's just, we've created unrealistic ideals for ourselves, and that's our problem.
And Saf, do you agree or do you disagree? What are your thoughts in terms of creative innovation and the state of it right now? Oh, sorry, Saf, the usual, you're still on mute. So we had to say it once in this webinar, right?
Oh, shit. After I thought I'd be better at this. I do to a certain degree, but Preetesh, when I saw the topic of today's discussion, I just, I feel like the two go hand in hand. Creativity and innovation. Innovation is creativity, and vice versa. I think you see it on a daily basis, because as long as human behavior is constantly changing, the way we interact, the way we communicate with each other and do things, there's always going to be new ways to innovate. And I think over the years, and especially with the advent of digital marketing, our perception of what innovation and creativity has been it's slightly changed, because it's the next thing, it's the next medium. Bill Bernbach used to say that the medium is the consumer and the context that the consumer has around him. Because as long as that's changing, as long as those insights are changing, there's always going to be new ways to talk to people. It could be as simple as a print ad. There's a great example of a laundromat in New York during the Great Depression. And they put an A4 page on their door, and it said, if you're going in for an interview, we'll wash your clothes for free. So there's a great example of innovation in a time based off simple insight, simple human truth. And that's what we kind of set out to do here, right? It's not just the mediums, it's the person in the middle that has the context.
Mm-hmm. But are you finding right now, Saf, I mean, in terms of, from a creative perspective, we craft these ideas and you create these ideas. Are we finding that creativity at that level is being translated into what eventually reaches people at the end, reaches those end consumers?
So in terms of, what do you mean? In terms of
in terms of our industry, in terms of when we come up with an idea and when you actually think about that idea, you interrogate, you wrestle with the problem. And when you wrestle that problem, you come up with a solution. Does that solution that you come up with in terms of that at the highest level possible, does it translate from that level into the end and finished product? Or is it being diluted, or is it being amplified? I don't know. So how are you finding that process? Is it where the idea is getting better over the process, or is it being diluted?
I think when when we look at our models of ad agencies these days, there's so many people that get involved along the way. From something that's come up in this little brain of mine, by the time it hits that billboard on the M1 or your TV screen, there's ECDs and CCOs that fuck with it. I read in the email that we can swear. I was very happy to see.
We've got an adult audience, it's fine.
Yeah.
But they fuck with it, right? And obviously our clients fuck with it. Our clients are paying millions and millions of rands, and we've become really shit at earning the trust of our clients. And I think it's an industry problem, across the board. And I think it's because I can get into to business model details, but I think by the time we get to the end product, it's kind of too many cooks have ruined the broth sometimes, and that's happened. But one thing that, and I mean, we do this at Ogilvy and in our KFC collab is we really hard on our insights and our human truths, because nobody can deny a human truth. It's obvious. And I guess the stronger your insights, the less likely they are to be watered down by the time you reach your end product. And keeping it simple also helps you achieve that.
Just for anyone who has any questions for any of our guests, just remember you do have the Q&A function in the bottom right-hand corner. You also have the chat function if you do want to use that. But please, if you want to keep the chat going, use the chat function. Also, warm welcome to everyone on Facebook Live, because while we have a chat over here on Zoom, which is a nice little panel of people, for those in Facebook Live, we're monitoring your questions. So Clocky from our team should have a look at it and share any questions that you have. But please, if you're on here, use the Q&A function as well. Veli, in terms of your side, in terms of the work that you're actually doing, are you finding that, as Saf says, sometimes it does get watered down, but it really depends on the creative idea and making sure that that idea is strong enough?
Yeah, and it's also linked to bravery, bravery of the agency, bravery of the people that are doing the work, and bravery of the clients. I think we live in a world where a lot of stuff offends a lot of people, right? So I think that also the fear around it. I mean, we were pitching on a client, and I actually challenged and heard the most saddest thing for the progress of our industry. Because there's such a low understanding of vernacular, and if you use a Zulu line, it might offend a Sotho person. They've come up with a policy that they don't advertise in vernacular at all. So that just shows the fear of thinking that something could go wrong, right? And that leads to very safe ideas. I've heard of clients that have panels of people that are not even marketers, that they test out if this is offensive or not. And I mean, I think if you put people in a room to look at something and try to find offense with it, they're looking at your ideas to poke holes in it. And that's where I think we lose a lot of creativity, where some of the clients are just not brave enough to approve the work. They don't think, they'll rather play it safe than approve. Some of the greatest ads, I think, have kind of had that talkability, it's important to keep that. And I think we're losing a lot of that, because I think brands fear being attacked, and there's that reality and pressure. So I think that for me is the biggest problem. Bravery from the agency to fight for the idea, but also bravery from the client side to approve an idea that is different, and not just try pull every idea to safety.
Jacquie, do you think that's true? Do you think, I'm looking again across Africa and the Middle East, who he's speaking to, do you think we're a region that's easily offended by the most basic of ideas?
Yeah. Absolutely. It becomes quite difficult sometimes.
When did you last have an ad banned? Or
I actually featured in the Cannes Annual in 2015 for an ad that was offensive, and we trended for 2 days in South Africa and the UK, but not for good reasons. So yeah, it's been 6 years of offense-free creativity for me.
But I mean, in terms of that experience, I mean, maybe that's it, because maybe you can tell us more about the ad and about the insight and why it was made and why it was seen as relevant. And how did it impact the innovation, the creative innovation process post that?
Oh. So basically, it was a social media post, and we had 2 white women, 1 brunette, 1 blonde. And our thing was, it was very like, frivolous little social media post. And it was like, every brunette needs a blonde best friend. Anyway, along the way of the many people who had sign off, and they said like, listen, we need to bring diversity into the image, and 100%. Without changing anything else, the designer just changed the image and had 1 blonde woman, white woman, and 1 black woman. And it was, obviously, it was offensive, because now everyone was like, well, why are you putting your westernized labels on me? I'm a black woman. Why do I have to be brunette? And it just opened up a whole big can of worms. But it kind of, after that, everyone was really scared, and it removed any kind of freedom. Up until that point, we were doing really well for the brand. But after that, it was like, warnings, and everything had to have 6,000 signatures before it could go live. And everyone became quite safe, and we weren't pushing the envelope anymore. And so yeah, it was a crazy time, and it got to the point where we kind of passed ways with the brand, because they were saying like, we're not improving, we're not.
I can't remember. I remember the ad, and I can't remember the brand.
Am I allowed to say?
We're in the safe company, yeah.
I mean, yeah, okay. It was Appetizer.
There we go. Yes, I'm remembering it now. Oh yeah, see, memory. It's so. But I mean, yeah. But that's a great example. But how has that affected you? I mean, if you think about you as an individual, do you think you now go into pitches and go, maybe let's be a little bit more safer in this because it's more likely to be accepted?
No, I actually, I think for a while I was quite scarred. I was terrified. I think I sense checked it with every single person in my department. I was like, are you offended? Like, fucking speak now. But it made me a little bit more aware to go, okay, just think things through. And it's not through the lens of, who will be offended by this, but it is along the lines of just being like, are we appropriating culture? Are we appropriating somebody's upbringing? Anything at this point. But it kind of has instilled in me something where, and I think we do play it very safe. And to Veli's point, I think the next evolution of our industry is going to be around the opposite. I think we're going to start giving less of a fuck and going, actually, you know what, for me to stand out, for my brand to stand out, I'm going to get a little bit offensive as long as it aligns to the values. And I'm not saying like being racist or sexist, but actually provoking a little bit of a thought process and a little bit of an opinion and a little bit of emotion. I think that's what we kind of need. It would be a little bit refreshing, don't you think?
I do. I'll tell you an interesting thing we're doing at the Loeries. So I watched an ad. There was an ad that got banned, and I watched it, and then I went, I don't get why this ad's being banned. And I thought, let's sense check it. Let's take it to the entire Loeries team. And I went, team, what did you think about this ad? And everyone watched, and everyone was perfectly fine with it. And they went, there's nothing wrong. Yet you read one complaint that's come from one person, just one. And then it gets amplified to such an extent that it goes through the process and it's getting getting banned. So now every single week as a Loeries, we go through, everyone on the team has a responsibility of finding an ad that's been banned so we can look at it and go, let's try and apply our minds and try and understand why these ads are being banned. But Saf, how many ads have you had banned or gotten into trouble for, Saf?
There's a few.
There's a few. But it happens, and sometimes some of those don't get into the public, and it doesn't get in the public domain. But in terms of the creative innovation process, especially when you take an edgy idea and you go out there and you go, this is gonna spark conversation, and people just push it down. How does that impact your process going forward in terms of what you put forward in front of, be it the brand and in terms of anyone else in the agency?
What do you mean?
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, go for it.
I think that you know, I sound like such a negative bugger, but the truth is that there's less and less rebels coming into our industry, you know, and for me I miss that. I miss having. I remember as a junior, I had senior copywriters writing radio ads and doing print ads that you know, Wayne Naidu at Low Bull would be sending off to lawyers every afternoon, and that was like a culture. You know, it was like if your ad wasn't being sent to lawyers for check, and it's like 10 years ago, to be checked, and there's something wrong with your ad, because we were made to believe that our job is to make our clients feel uncomfortable, because that's when you know that your work's disruptive enough. So we tried to encourage that. We get into trouble every now and then, you know, with KFC. We got into trouble last year, but it inspired good conversation, because I guess what the topic became, you know, we had posted this tweet. It was part of a greater campaign that was flighting on TV. And there was a segment of a cultural segment of the market who took offense to something that, I mean, I can't say it wasn't offensive, because I'm not there. But the result was a conversation on Twitter that came about on whether we're too insecure about who we are as people. Because, and somebody, one of our Twitter warriors, we don't know who he is, made a very good comment, which was like, if a stand-up comedian stood up on stage and said that exact same thing, you'd be laughing and clapping. But because it's a brand, you've kind of taken offense and you've driven it. It's opened up a bigger conversation. The client pulled the campaign, but they've relaunched it because of that conversation, you know, which I think is good. And I think we must remember that we've entered this new woke era, and I think people are maturing to it and trying to grasp and understand what it does. And the more bad experiences we have, the quicker the better, because then we can get over them, and our markets can become more mature to the way we should be communicating these days. And then they'll allow us for a little bit more legroom. I think that we've made as an industry.
You're a pioneer.
Yeah, I think we've made a lot of mistakes as an industry, you know, and we've put stuff out there that's offended people, and rightfully so. And now, more than ever, people have a voice because of social media, so they get to talk about it, and it's good. They must, like, fucking call us out for our shit. Call us out for making ignorant ads, because our industry hasn't transformed enough. Because, you know, after 10 or 15 years of trying to do it ourselves, we've getting somewhere slowly. But as soon as the people are out there being like, hey, get the right person writing your ads, it helps change that a lot quicker, I feel.
Veli, I know this is a passion point for you. How important is transformation in terms of ensuring that we have the right creative?
Well, yeah. Look, I think maybe before we get there, you know, there's so many ideas that we come up with that don't even make it because of that fear. There's this idea that I'll say, because, you know, we've been trying to sell it to the same client for like the last 2 years. It's a beautiful idea by Mbulelo Mumbles. So I'm a Christian, and we discussed it with fellow Christian people now, and some were highly offended by it and some were not. So it's for a blood service company, right? And it's about the idea of giving life through blood, right? And we wanted to run this campaign over Easter, where we have the crown of thorns. It's just on a normal average guy, just sitting in a restaurant, walking around, me, just, you know, with the blood, and just with the line, everyone can be a savior, you know, donate blood. And for me, that was the most beautiful way to articulate that our blood saves lives, and we wanted to run it over the Easter period. We had done treatments of the crown of just normal people. There was this one of this 18-year-old kid that just, you know, was actually on a dance floor, and he had the crown on him, and it got bombed. You know, and it got bombed because, I mean, we first had to go to like the council of churches, and they kind of said, okay, it's fine, you know, but at the last minute, we got a mail, and we were just about to shoot that says, we think this is too risky, you know, for blood services, our stakeholders, and so on. So you find that all those considerations, you know, the stakeholders, and you find that the creative department is so disempowered these days that, you know, they are basically driven by the business interests of the business, to say, you know, if we offend our, you know, and if we offend our Christian stakeholders, maybe we won't get the funding or whatever. So for me, the context of it is bravery. And I mean, that idea, I'm going to sell it for all my career. If there's one thing I do, is sell that idea. I mean, even if I have to launch it like in some other blood service, like in Mauritius, like Mauritian blood services or something.
Do you have a client? Email Veli.
Yeah, so if anyone is listening and wants to run that idea, I'll do it for free.
I was having this chat with somebody else, with another chief creative officer, and Greg, you know, in terms of creativity and stuff. And they went, and we had a really nice chat, and it was all about the fact that the reality is, you know, we come up with these ideas and they're brilliant, but the ownership of any issues does go to the brand, to that side. So, I mean, and the reason we do our work is commercial creativity. We don't do it just for the art. We do it really for the business side of it and making sure that those brands actually make money out of it. I mean, is it fair then maybe in that context, if we look at it and go, if they want to commercialize and they want to make sure they make money from any ads that they put out, and two, that if there is a problem, that really, I mean, sits so much more with the brand than it does with us or with anyone in an agency ecosystem. Is it then fair to say that they're probably on the right by trying to say, let's limit it to limit our exposure to any negative stuff? So Veli, do you want to get that? And then I'm going to go to Jacquie, because I can see Jacquie shaking her head there.
It's all about defectiveness. You know, I obviously drive around. There's no one billboard that I've actually looked at twice. You know, as you drive around, it's just wallpaper everywhere. Everything is normal. The messaging is normal. And what we also, and it doesn't need to be offensive to be good. It just needs to be clever. I think also, and I'm sure the copywriters listening and chatting would agree, what we are losing a lot in our industry is good copywriters. As you know, I sit on the advisory board of Red and Yellow, and you find that sometimes there's 2 copywriters in a class. Sometimes there's 3. You know, I know some other schools have even shut down the copywriting course. So writing, it doesn't need to be, it just needs to be clever. So the good ads with good copy are not there. I'm reading billboards as if I'm reading a brochure. It's literally the brochure. And you say, where is the innovation there? So in what is, and maybe I'm changing my opinion a bit, but what is dying in creative innovation is copy. You know, it's very hard to find good copywriters. You're just finding people that are writing what the product is, you know, and think about it. When last did you even rewind an ad? We watch an ad and you want to watch it again. You know, you kind of like want it to end. You know, every time you see an ad, you just want it to end. And before, you wanted to watch it again. And when you see it again, as you're paging through a newspaper, when last did you stop and look at an ad? You don't. As you drive around, when last did you just look at a billboard and say, wow, that is clever? It doesn't happen. So in the copy space, I think it is dying. And I think as an industry, we really need to search deep and say, what is happening to our good copywriters? And why is that part of the business dying, which is a very important part of the business?
I'll tell you an interesting fact based on that. I visited a school yesterday, so let's not put the brands out there, but I visited a school yesterday and I spoke to 2 other schools in a face-to-face chat today. And the number one issue that comes out is how copywriting is dying. And they cannot fill their class with copywriters. People are not applying. And that was the entry point into the creative industry, wasn't it? I mean, you had to be a copywriter. A lot of people started off as copywriters getting into it. So yeah, it is a big challenge. And I think it also requires some sort of reframing in that space as well for us as an industry. But Jacquie, I know you
copywriters, so you know,
right?
Everyone's a copywriter now, though.
I know. It's everyone goes like, yeah, that's easy. It's pretty easy. But I mean, I always go that the value of a copywriter really is that a copywriter can take the problems that we have and distill it into its simplest form, so it's easily understood by a wide range of people, so that then you can then take these problems as well and then distill it into the simplest solution that's understood by a wide range of people as well. And that speaks about strategic thinking. Yeah, sorry, Jackie.
I'll say writers are awesome. They're the best.
I know, I agree, and I think you're right. It's a big challenge there. But maybe just rewinding a little bit back, Jackie, in terms of that debate that's happening, in terms of that the buck sometimes stops with the brand in terms of any repercussions that come from anything that they do, and that's why they don't want to venture out in a more creative way. I saw you shaking your head no there. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, so I think for me, like, brands are scared of offending anyone and everyone. And I think that is the biggest issue. I mean, when last have you received a brief where the brand has been like, I'm speaking to this niche market. I don't care about anyone else. That's who I'm speaking to. That's who I'm selling my product to. That's my biggest following. Like, every brief has got like, we're speaking to everyone between the ages of 18 and 65. Clients, not clients, doesn't matter. We're speaking to everyone, and that's our problem, because there's no way you're going to make everyone happy. And I think like brands asking to go, what are my values? Who is my biggest market? And it's not about alienating everyone else, about understanding who your true following is and who your client base is, and everything else will fall into place. And I think once we've understood that and once we've got that, then I think we can be a lot braver, because we know our parameters. At the moment, we're speaking to everyone, and you're going to find someone who's easily offended by anything. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I think bravery needs to come with parameters. I mean, even the bravest client knows where they will and won't speak, what they will and will not say. And that's kind of bravery to go, this is where I will speak up. You know what, fuck the rest.
Yeah. Just to be a bit maybe controversial, especially coming from me, I was so happy to hear a client say this, because I'd never heard it said like this before, right? So the client has got a very loyal base in the white market. It's always been there, right? And it's a brand that, and there seems always to be this fascination to grow into the black market, and take the brands there. And he sat and said to me, I know you guys are Black-owned agency, but I want you to bring the Black people that like my brand to this side, rather than take my brand to them. I don't want my brand in Neshisa Nyama, because that space is saturated. I don't want you to go to the market. Your job, as I brief you, is to take the market that chooses to come to me, And I thought that was very different, because I think that is also part of the problem, because every brand now thinks there's this big piece of the pie that they all need to focus on and leave this traditional market and go there. And what I find is that the loyalty, because the market is exposed to so much that targets them. So you find the loyalty, even for the brands, actually start diminishing as well. So I found that very brave, and I found that very interesting. And it's something that I haven't heard a client say. This is the target that I want to come to me, but don't take my brand there because my brand doesn't fit there. And I thought, coming from him was very refreshing and very different. So that is another problem when it comes to target, as was said. The targeting everyone and anyone, especially a Black male and female 18 to 65. That's not targeting, and that for me is part of the problem. It's just like the whole of South Africa, and that just makes the idea even more vanilla.
Yeah, I think there's always a challenge of people not really understanding who their customer base is. That's been around for years. Maybe let's take some questions before we run out of time. So Saf, maybe this one's for you. Staying on the topic of risk as we've been chatting, it's from Paul Garrick. I hope I get your surname right there, Paul. It says, I feel like being offended has become the norm in a society that loves to virtue signal or face the risk of being cancelled. Does this mean the death of creativity, or do people have to find more creative ways of being creative? So how do we navigate the risk? I feel like society should grow up in some instances. Saf, thoughts?
So I think, Garrick, if you find the answer to that question, tell us all, because we all walk around on eggshells every day trying to put the best comms out there. You know, I think that we need to be smarter than we've ever been in the way that we communicate, the way that we ideate. You know, it's a problem, but we are solutions people, and we need to think our way around these problems and kind of play into them. And I think some of the best work at the moment does that. I look at like the new diesel stuff. Somebody shared it with me yesterday. The rebel that turns into a nun at the end, you know, for successful living. That does it in a smart way. I don't think anybody's going to be offended, because when you see that, you know it's not for you if it's not for you. That comes into so much of the crafting and the actual producing of your comms. You know, we talk on such a basic level about how we produce work, but we forget that, you know, we sit in a room with a director and we discuss a treatment, and a treatment could make something feel less offensive instantly. You know, the way it's delivered or the way it's performed by the actor you cast in your TV commercial can suddenly make something feel less offensive. So I think it's not going to kill it. It's definitely slowed us down. It's definitely had an impact on the work we see it year in and year out at every single award show. The quality of the work's dropping ridiculously. But I think as we adapt, and that's what we were saying earlier, you know, we in this new world, this new way of thinking, we can't just say whatever the fuck we feel like saying anymore. So we need to be smart about how we say what we really want to say. And we don't have to be crass, you know. Being controversial isn't offending someone's race or offending someone's gender or making a point like that. You can be controversial. What was it? Moldy Whopper. Try selling that to your client. Try selling a burger, getting fucking mold on it over a period of time to a client. That's brave work, you know. It's just it's thinking differently. There's different ways to get people's attention without poking at them like Ricky Gervais does on Twitter. So.
and Jacquie, in terms of just continuing this question, so how do we navigate risk? How are you navigating all of this risk in your career?
Maybe that's the problem. I think we're navigating around it, and I quite like what Saf said earlier. I think like we should fuck up as much as we can so we can get over all these issues and kind of figure out a space where we can be authentic and ourselves and not have to like walk on eggshells. I think that's where I'm excited to go. I want to, and exactly it. It's not about being offensive. It's just being like authentic and true, and not being able to go, okay, cool, you know, I'm speaking to Emma Money and I'm for everyone and everyone's my friend. Like, no, fuck that. Like, let's just storm right in and go, cool, this is who we are. I can like us or not. Enough navigating around here. I say that bravely, and like my boss will probably be like cringing in the corner going, no.
That's presentation at 4.
But Preetesh, I think you've got the answer. You've got the answer to this, right? So here's the thought, right? If the agencies basically rebel and make one offensive ad a week until the market gets used to it, and then you open a category for the most. Yes. The most innovative, and again, I say offensive is not poking or being racist or sexist. I think the Whopper. So I don't know the English word for it's like offensive, but basically pushing the boundaries, maybe. You know, so if we've got a category that you win an award for that type of work that might have, you know, pissed off a few people, not insulted people, but it's just that type of work that you're like, ooh, okay, that's brave. So maybe a brave category in the Loeries, because the industry needs to also unite against the type of work that the society and the brands are trying to make us do. And if we unite and we get people used to that work, it would be beautiful. I mean, some of the most iconic ads. I mean, you look at that SABC one, look at Mzansi differently. It's still iconic. Where are those ads? You know. So if if we told clients that, okay, we prepare the market that, guys, you might not like this ad, but we're doing it, and you know, tell us why you don't like it. So the more that type of work comes out, the more people will get used to it. And then it just will be a normal thing. They'll just say, oh, those creatives do that type of work.
Yeah.
Part of what we do is like innovation is such a core part. Like innovation is a key criteria by which we measure all the ads that come, and you see it coming through. I mean, I think of the NetBank Secrets campaign. I mean, that was a campaign where they did not mention the brand at all until like right in. Nothing communicated it. They spent tons of money on that, and they weren't even mentioning the actual brand. It was just selling the idea in terms of financial planning and all of that in a very interesting and in some aspects maybe even controversial ways for some people out there as well, if they actually review it and have a look at some of the topics that were being tackled in it as well. And I think, yeah, it is coming, but maybe one of the things we need to find is it's getting harder and harder to find these cases of bravery out there. So we can absolutely open up a category like this and we might not get it. In fact, instead of it being a category, it needs to be, how do you make this just a core part of everything we do? That's what we should be celebrating out there. Veli, maybe just staying with you as well. And since you're speaking about copy, Diveksha Vallabhji has a question. She says, speaking of copy, is there something that needs to change in how we sell work in? Because we find ourselves having to write more rationales and post rationales and presentation write-ups and focusing on refreshing clever copy. What are your thoughts on that?
It's true. And I guess it's around the same theme as well as justifying everything that we do, because everyone needs to understand, even to the lowest denominator, to everyone, you know. So you find that you're not selling work, you are justifying work. You know, and the rationale is not setting up the work, it's proving to the client that the work works, you know. And we've never had that, you know. Some presentations are more justifications of why you went that direction rather than we went this direction, we believe in it, and it's a good direction, you know. So it is also around this fear, because with the fear, then you have to justify, and that's when I used to have a creative director that really hated the data side. You know, he hated the research side and the strat side, because he's just like, damn, you're like, don't, like these graphs won't make my idea any better. You're not, you know, but you find that even some strategists use numbers and data to try justify the idea because the client needs that comfort, you know, researched. You know, you over research so that you try to prove that it works. So I think that's in answering the question, that is the big problem, that what we do to set up the idea is not supporting the idea, but is meant to justify the idea, which is like a weird twist to when we started in marketing. And a good idea was just a damn good idea. You didn't need graphs to tell you that, or like some panel of 10 people in some dark room to say, yeah, that's a cool idea. A cool idea was just a cool idea. And that's what has changed. And that's I guess is part of the diminishing of creative innovation in our industry.
That's a good point. So yes,
I think if you're writing the word rationale in your presentation, then start relooking your idea, because it didn't need a rationale. And you know, Diveksha, I think Preetesh said something it sums up what we do as writers. It's distilling an idea in the simplest way so that everybody gets it. And that's your presentation write-up as a copywriter is fucking important. Every time you do it, it teaches you how to distill your idea better and simpler and talk it through. And what that write-up needs to do, it's almost be an ad in itself. You know, we walk into these presentations with our clients, we expect them to buy our thinking that's meant to sell their product to thousands of people, but we can't even sell our own product properly first. And I think it's very, very important to get that right. So that write-up needs to be just a simple kind of like demonstration of your insight, whether it's a poem, whether it's 5 different sentences and 5 different slides that dramatize something, but it can lead you into your idea in a way that the client's doing this. And when you've got your client doing that because you've written a beautiful piece of copy that's led them into an idea, then your idea's sold. It's probably not going to get watered down either. So it's important to focus on that. as well as we don't look. We're in 2021. We're not writing long copy ads for You Magazine anymore. At best, we're writing social posts, or a one-liner on a billboard. So I think it's important to kind of channel our writing in ways that help sell our ideas, so that we can sell more of the braver ideas. Our job is to persuade, and it starts with persuading our clients before their clients. So use your writing to do that.
I always think rationales are somewhat ridiculous because your end consumer doesn't have the rationale. So if you have to over-explain something, it's probably not right.
That's such a good point. I'm going to just read this out quickly. From an anonymous attendee, a shout out to Mr. Saf. He's my CD creative director. Super innovative and always pushing forward. He taught me everything you need to know about writing. So Saf, I'm sure you know who that is.
Getting a promotion, anonymous.
Getting whoever it is, you're getting a promotion. Paul Girk is back again with a follow-up question. Jackie, if you want to tackle this. And it's a good point. Censorship should be a personal choice of the receiver based upon their beliefs or values, and not by the sender of the message who says he's playing devil's advocate here. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I mean, and it goes back to what I was saying about, brands need to be very clear about who they're talking to, because they're going to have to speak to their brand values and their, I suppose, their products. Like, who are they talking to? If anyone else is offended, and I say offended, but I mean, maybe it's just disinterested, which is probably even worse. I think it's about who you're talking to. Anyone else, if you take offense or if you're disinterested in something, then you're not right for the brand, right? So yes, I 100% agree. If you do not like something, then that brand's not for you. And I think we should be honest and authentic and not try and pretend that we're for everyone. Yeah, I don't know. That answers your
good point. Jackie, that's a good point. Maybe, I mean, then that's the next thing. Do you think people have the right to be offended for communication that's not targeting them?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the other thing too, because I think a lot of people, I've seen complaints where you've had somebody who's definitely not who is being targeted by that communication, writing in to complain that it's offensive and getting an ad banned when it's not being targeted. So should even have the right to do so.
Can we innovate those complaints? Can we do a home check on the people who send in complaints? Let's check their hobbies. Let's check why they're so angry. Let's check if they're in pain, because there's a reason why they're grumpy. So before we just pull an ad, I think we need to investigate the complainee. Can we do that? Thank you.
Talk to the people who handle that side. Luckily, we as the Loeries don't have to deal with it.
I'm going to be sending a strong worded email immediately after this.
I'll send that for you. Don't worry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just having a look. So we're almost. Can you believe it? We're almost out of time. It's absolutely crazy. And there's an amazing webinar that continues after this with Ngubane from Think, and that's with the Creative Circle. So if anyone has some time and you have a look, that you can still register and continue with all these amazing insights. And then Ngubane is going to be doing that section. But just for the purposes of our chat, before we end off this discussion, maybe just in terms of how do we tackle this issue in terms of creative innovation? How do we ensure that we as individuals are champions and advocates for creativity and the innovation that needs to happen in our day-to-day job? Starting with Veli, how do we do this?
Well, we need to all have one common goal of being braver. We need to talk about it more. We need to educate our clients on it more. We need to show clients the type of work that the industry should have, and we need to have a comparative view, because I think a lot of people have even forgotten what good work is, because we just see wallpaper. And a historic view of this is good work and this is why it works. So I think there's a lot of education on our side, even the younger people that are coming in, because some people have just come into this vanilla world and they just think that's the work, So, for us is to go back and really, even in our own agencies, have these creative sessions where we show our teams, especially the younger guys, what we think good work is. And when you start showing people what good work is, then it elevates the whole category. And also on the award space, I think at every awards show, I'm like that, weird judge that doesn't want to award work, because I'm like, don't award work just because you have nothing else to give that is better, because you're lowering the whole category. So if there's no Grand Prix in that category, don't give a Grand Prix. If there's no goals in that category, do not give a gold. Don't just give awards just because it's the best of the bad bit. So even the responsibilities of the people that judge awards is very, very important. Don't award work that's not good, because we see work being awarded and that becomes the standard. So I guess it's a dual issue there.
I completely agree. Just on the award side, really. I mean, one of the things the Loeries that we've been doing as well is nice sat with jury presence last year. And when we've seen that the category absolutely does not deserve like this higher level medals like gold and stuff, that it does not get awarded. Just doesn't happen. Absolutely not. Because you're right. As soon as we start awarding mediocrity, it becomes the norm and it becomes the standard. And it's something I can promise you from our side that we're not gonna allow happen. Thank you, Veli. Saf, after you. What are your thoughts in terms of how we fight this good fight?
I think there's a lot of work to be done. I think that the workload on creatives has tripled or quadrupled. We've gone from like having 2 weeks to present print, TV, and a radio campaign to having 3 days to do TV, radio, all digital, social, PR, in-store thing. And I think that the capacity that we have and the time that we have left to think and ideate around these things is becoming less and less and less. And the quality of work's obviously suffering because of that. So I think that the current model that we all have in our agencies, and I see a few agencies are starting to change and try and create different processes for creatives to get to the best ideas. I think we need to do more of those, make more mistakes and figure things out to get back to making comms that we all like literally got into this industry to make, not the boring stuff.
Amazing. So let's get more rebels, be more rebellious. I think that's what we need. Jacquie, parting shots from you.
Yeah, I think we've got a long way to go, but I think we put this immense pressure on ourselves. When we hear creative innovation, we are like, oh, what hasn't been made? What hasn't been done? Does it have to be a prototype? I think I'd love to see innovation from the brief, like just start practicing that thinking, that disruptive thinking. It can be the smallest little bit of innovation, but as soon as we make it part of our natural process, because that's what we do as creatives, we look at new ways of doing things and new ways of implementing and disrupting the norm. So it's what we do. So stop putting pressure on yourself. Like, let's all just fucking have fun and go, is this innovative? Yeah, you know what? Instead of 140 characters, I did this in 80 characters for a social post. That counts, okay? I mean, you're not going to go into any Hall of Fame things, but it just take the pressure off yourself. It's just fucking just let your mind go there.
Amazing. Jacquie Mullany, Veli, Ngubane, Safaraaz, Sindhi, thank you so much for giving up your time this afternoon to have a chat with us and sharing all those amazing insights. And hopefully we're going to have more rebels and more brave ideas going out into our industry. So thank you so much for your time. To everyone else that's tuned in, really appreciate having all of you tune in as well. Don't forget, early bird entries for the Loeries close 3rd of May, and entries in total close on the 31st of May. So please try and get your entries in by the 3rd of May. Guys, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Have an amazing afternoon. And for everyone else, don't forget, if you want to hear a lot more, tune into Nkabi Singh, who's coming up on a Creative Circle chat after this. All the best, everyone. Thanks, Jacquie. Thanks, Veli. Thanks, Saf. Take care. Thanks, everyone. Cheers. Have a good afternoon.
Bye.